Oh my goodness, I hear it in the feedback. You need to cut that off.
Then go do it.
We're live. You need to talk to the people.
So go do it.
Talk to the people.
What's going on, everybody? We're once again,
No,
my man over here got technical difficulties.
No, hey, this is you.
This guy.
This is all you this time.
Hey, listen, y'all. Listen. My man just celebrated his birthday, y'all. Let's go. Let's go.
There we go.
Let's go.
There we go. Now we talking.
29 years old? 28?
Hey, man, I'm thankful for that.
You're not 28 or 29.
Who's asking? You would never know. You would never know.
Whatever.
Wow, that looks crazy. Yeah, 36. Just crooked. 36. 36 years
That's
old.
what's up. 36 years old. Okay.
Yeah, 4 more
3
years
kids, a house, 2 cars.
So, yo, what are you telling us? No, we're not living like that.
No. Got money in the bank. Boy,
No.
stacking, yo.
No, I
Oh,
don't.
boy, stacking
No,
at
I don't.
36. Okay. Give me the formula.
You ain't know how
Jesus
humble.
plus faith equals.
You ain't know how humble I was.
Come on now.
You ain't even know.
Oh, now we humble, huh? Now we humble, huh?
No.
Let's go. Talk big things. 36. Man, doing it.
Thankful. Learned a lot in year 35.
What's that?
I learned a lot in year 35. Now I have a year 36 goal. Since my boss, she asked me, she said, she actually told me to tell her.
What, in the federal?
Yeah. Like what's your she's like, what's your goal for year 36? And she asked me that on Thursday. I was like, yeah, I don't know. She's like, all right, well, come back to me on Thursday and figure it out. She said her niece or whatever said, I'm gonna tell my job no more. And she turns to me and says, but don't you get any ideas?
She said
So I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's crazy.
But I figured out mine is in year 36 is to only be afraid of being afraid. So that's it. I'm gonna, if I try and I fail, I fail. At least I did it. At least I got out there.
The fear of death is worse than death itself.
Okay. One fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish.
But it's crazy though how your boss, you can get inspired by your boss saying, goals and everything. They've been in this church for your past week teaching goal-oriented life. And
he does. And I'm pretty sure that Pastor
crazy.
would talk about vision and visionary things
all the time. I know your pastor be teaching that.
He does, and I'm pretty
but it took
sure.
Your boss at the federal government, huh?
I would think that whoever was my pastor would understand my visionary ideas and would already see it work. It's already there. But if they haven't, then they must not be pastoring me. It's something different. They messed up. It ain't them. It's something else. But anyways, how you been, man?
Man, I've been fantastic.
Weather's nice and warm now, man. We about to celebrate the 4th. That's a part of the news for this week, this upcoming week or past week. We're about to celebrate the 4th. Any big plans?
Chilling.
No grilling, no doing nothing. Figured I'd ask you while I was here. Don wanted me to ask you, so I put it out there. Don, he ain't doing nothing.
Don already know what time it is.
He ain't doing nothing, Don.
Ain't none of y'all trying to cook, so shoot.
Hey, well, I told you, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna be afraid of not being afraid, but I'm not doing it around other people. I'm gonna fail by myself first. All right, cool. 4th coming up, and I got a funny story to tell you after we get off the podcast.
You can't tell it right now?
No.
Dang.
The world we live in, man, it's crazy. I
agree.
Just put it this way: we get 4 hours off where I work at for 4th of July.
Wait, you have to work 4th of July?
No. I get 4 hours off the day before.
Oh,
yeah,
that's what's up.
But there's a funnier. It's a sad joke.
That's what's up.
There was a previous holiday, and asked me out there how long I got. Now
0. See, we're celebrating American liberation. But to celebrate that Black liberation,
we need more. Y'all need to be working more. We got too many holidays off. 4th of July come around. Woo!
Yeah. Whatever.
All right. So
It's
we've
all
been doing
good.
this series.
It's all good.
No,
It's all
yeah,
good.
I'm taking it.
It's all good.
We've been doing a series.
Yep.
Working through the amendments, but specifically looking at it through the lens of being a believer. If we were a Christian and we were trying to uphold the Bill of Rights right now, we're up to number 6, but maybe
tonight's 6.
We'll probably dabble a little bit in 5 because I know you said you had some verses still that you wanted to get through.
We're going through it.
Okay. But anyways, the idea is to read the amendments, work through them, and then see how, as believers, would we want to uphold this? In our mindsets, in our mentality, we have the highest form of good woven in the Bible.
Yep.
Would you agree to that?
Absolutely.
And with the highest form of good, we also have verses that convict us to be as selfless as we can for others. Meaning, the natural man is selfish. Not only are they alienated from God, but they seek its own self, its own pleasures, its own desires. The natural man does not seek it and say, hey, Steve's not doing well, let me go help him. Steve's not doing this.
Well, wait a minute. You got to quantify that because people will do good. The Bible does not say people cannot do good. The problem is that their end result is for themselves, not for the good of the other person. I will go and do something for you. For exchange, I'm expecting you to return that favor. Now, again, ain't nothing wrong with that per se, but it's when your whole heart is built off of that, and it's built off of you being that individual that says, look what I did. Look what I'm doing. Look how I did this. Look how I did that. So it's that glorification of self again. So I'm agreeing with you to a degree, but you also got to put that extra perspective on it because even Jesus addresses the fact that even sinners do good to sinners for the return favor.
Right. So getting to that point, what I was addressing is believers having the highest form of good that a person is seeking for themselves. So, like you said, they're looking to do something, or they're looking to lend you money so that they can get it back.
Correct.
In that example of
that favor
of the scripture that you're referring to, they love who loves them.
Yep.
They look for things in return.
Yep.
They're not gonna. They care less about their enemies. But believers are called to a higher form of love and a higher form of good, which requires selflessness, which requires the love of God. Is my point of
your
stressing.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, line all that up to say, how then do you take that mindset? Because you can't just go into the Constitution if we're talking about being a believer and upholding things of good and remove all those things we just laid out there. God's love, how God deals with humanity in his mercy, in his grace, in his love, how he expects us to deal with humanity, and then just go in and just start to go First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, my area, my geographic. You cannot remove the tenets of our faith when you jump into the Constitution, looking at it from the perspective that we are, which is, how can I do this as a believer?
How can you do it objectively, not subjectively? Because people will say, I uphold the Bill of Rights, right? Or I uphold the whatever amendment we're talking about, but it's slanted because they only see their version of it, like how they're protected within it.
Yes.
Like, for instance, we talk about the freedom of speech, right? So again, freedom of speech, I'm happy when my freedoms are expressed, but what happens when I let somebody else's freedoms be expressed? Now I want to hate on them and they're evil and they're hateful and this and that because they're expressing their own freedom of rights to speak, their believers speak whatever they're speaking, and yet you want to hate on them and calling them evil, all this and that, when all they're doing is practicing what you're practicing, which is, freedom of expression. Right?
Right.
So, anyways, to your point.
So that's what we've been dealing with. Working through the series. We worked through the first five so far.
Yep.
And 6 now kind of ties into 5 a little bit.
A little bit, but 6 is 6 got some good.
It still deals with the legal
Yes,
aspect.
yes,
which is
absolutely,
5.
absolutely. And I don't know if I want to ask a question.
Let's go, man. Turn up. Your energy's a little low.
Yeah, okay, big
Your energy's
guy.
a little low.
Okay, big guy.
It's a little low.
Okay,
I'm
big
just
guy.
saying.
Yeah,
You kind of.
yeah.
It seems like you need to talk for your energy level to be, man.
I'm focused. I'm listening to what you got to
All
say.
right, I'm just saying. You don't want to ask a question. Do you want to ask a question?
I don't want to ask a question.
I wouldn't have had to ask you if you wanted to ask a question or not. If your energy level would have been up there, man. I wouldn't have had to ask you. But now you want to know.
This guy.
I don't know.
This guy.
Maybe.
Love him. I love him.
Maybe I should.
Because I don't want snaps. Because I don't want to interfere with the line of reasoning. I don't want to take us off track. So I'm going to stay focused without asking that question.
Okay, go ahead. Stay focused.
So
just
the
remember the
Sixth
question.
Amendment, yeah. The Sixth Amendment, I'm going to read it.
Ooh, man.
And then, but it's a little lengthy. But, we'll look at parts of it and get into some things.
Okay. Just do it.
Hush your mouth. It says this is the Sixth Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be and then it's another part, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witness against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense.
Good. I like that.
So there is a lot going on within Amendment 6 regarding,
having some safeguard legal ramifications put in place.
Yes.
For criminal.
Yes.
Charges.
To prevent the overreach of government against somebody who's being accused of a crime, or going through the process of the indictment and the accusation, and now they're pending, verdict or whatever, going through the trial, right?
Right.
So it's very important to, number one, because it's going to reach back, it's going to talk back to what you did the prelude to about what we're doing here, is that recognizing the steps that the framers used to ensure that a criminal or somebody who's being accused of a crime is still given fair. And I love the way it says shall enjoy the right. Like the framers use the language to recognize the importance of, to enjoy, doesn't mean make them happy, but to enjoy the freedom, having the ability of no interference or subjectivity to the process that they're offered, which, to your point, Amendment 5 is due process.
Exactly.
Okay? So it's important to understand the framers and the framers' goals in order for a Christian to know how important it is for them to be thinking properly to uphold the amendments. Because I'll be honest with you, a lot of times, especially nowadays with so much on social media, so much news coverage and slanted news coverage, so much that you hear people conversing about, so much that people want to say, and it's like they're dropped in the middle of a story and they only pick up the information from the middle of the story rather than from the origin of the story.
Gotcha.
And that's like how people deal with the amendments and deal with the Constitution. They pick up from the storyline of history and what they've been told, rather than going back to the framers, right? We're going back to the architects of what was their intentions. The architects knew that the Constitution had to be a living document, meaning it could have the ability, like the government had the ability to work within the framework of the letter to maintain the spirit of the day and still commit to the letter's legalities, the point of the author's writing this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The problem, like I said, is we pick up the storyline mid-story, and then we start going from there with all these misinterpretations and this lack of facts and lack of information, and start carrying the story from there instead of going to the framers, right? And so the big thing again that we all have to understand, again, as Christians, because again, let's make sure that as a Christian, I'm somebody who is comfortable hearing information that I might find disturbing or I might find frustrating, and go through all of the facts. That's fair. That's a fair process. It's just like in a court of law. You have to sift through all of the facts before you come to a conclusion, because you have to rationally look at all of the facts presented and work through them reasonably, logically, make sure everything is coherent, and then come at the end to a verdict with what information you're given.
Agreed.
So in Amendment 6, what we're seeing here is the importance of having fairness to a criminal. That's a problem with a lot of people. A lot of people don't mind a criminal being forsaken.
Or accused.
Well, this says criminal. This says it does say accused. You're right.
Yeah,
so
you're making it.
Yeah. So, but a lot of people automatically, like I said,
of course,
they're already guilty. You're already guilty. They caught him. He did it, or she did it.
If we don't like the person,
right?
If we do
or you don't like the group they come from.
Yes, or the group. Other than that, we're like, no, they didn't do it. Come on now, we know they.
Or you'll give them the benefit of the doubt, like, well, did we go through this? Did we sift through that? But yet, if you get somebody else that if you get a person from a group, you really automatically have your presuppositions about them, and then you put them in the light of being accused, you have that person guilty.
They're done.
Guilty.
Do not ask me about
hang
any
them.
Evidence.
Basically, hang them. Well, they did. So, anyways,
there was no
due process at all.
There's
absolutely no due process. There was no fair jury. Let's not go into that. Let's just keep this thing holistic. So when we talk about the importance of, hey, Lorraine, good to see you. Good evening as well. Thank you for being with us tonight. Awesome. Going through the Sixth Amendment as a Christian, recognizing, again, as a viewer, even as a viewer, hearing about what's going on out there, right? Mm-hmm. Again, how many people do you think automatically had O.J. Simpson guilty when he was being chased in the white Bronco? A lot of people. Well,
OJ was a well-renowned celebrity. So
but what I'm saying is that being chased by the cops and him running in a white Bronco,
he was definitely guilty of running away from the cops.
Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just a lot of things that. So it provides the accused the opportunity to be given a fair trial, and there are steps to a fair trial. So it's not just, we gave him a trial. It's the steps to have a fair trial. The steps of, again, going through all of the pieces that ensure that the whole due process setup is granted fairly to an accused. So the first one, the most important one actually of the Sixth Amendment, they consider the most important piece is the assistance of counsel.
Yeah, you got legal representation.
Yes. Competent, educated representation. Not just somebody who has a dog tag saying they're a lawyer, but somebody who actually is competent.
Correct.
Why do you say it like that?
Well, because your public defender,
that's a dog tag.
No, that meets the.
I know what makes the criteria, but still a lot of them have dog tags. They're just dog tag lawyers. They ain't real lawyers. They ain't
which it is good though. I mean, even though public defenders, it is what it is. At least it is good that you do have somebody free of charge.
Yep.
I can already just let you know though, if you are a minority or a person who's very poor, you might want to try to find a way to scrape up some money because public defenders are not going to be your best.
They just want you to plead. Just plead out. Plead. Take the plea bargain. Do the 3 years. You'll be out 3 years.
They have 8 or 9 cases probably going on at the same time. Yeah. They don't have it. They just
not caring about the ramifications of having a felony on your record for the rest of your life, of what that does to an individual trying to re-enter into society. But that's beside the point. That's a whole nother conversation. So, anyways, this gives you fair representation. So there's about 6 points. The first one is a speedy trial. Okay, so that's the important piece. Okay,
and that's important because you don't want to just be in the jail and just delaying this process, so a speedy and fair trial. Yes. That's important.
Next one is an impartial jury.
Woo.
An impartial jury, so that you're judged by your peers, right? And again, I'm going to tell you right now, as we say these things, you're going to reflect in your own mind of experience and what you've seen in society, what you have maybe experienced yourself. You will see how are so many of these things actually fair. It's like, how are you going to have there's a crime done, right? Unfortunately, it's in another neighborhood, another part of the city, or whatever, or another county, right? And all of a sudden, you're going to be judged by those in that county that you know they don't have a fair bone about how they're going to look at an individual from a group or from a.
I'm cutting my dreads and wearing a suit every day.
I'm just saying.
Every day.
Next one is notice of accusation, meaning you should be aware of the actual accusation.
It's important. Mm-hmm. I need to know, which goes back to due process. If, hypothetically speaking, you say I'm not here in this country legally or whatever the case may be, I need to know what I'm supposed to be given.
Yes.
My charges.
Yes.
I'm supposed to know what the indictment is. I'm not supposed to be shipped off to someplace else and then say, I don't know what happened. I am supposed to be given to this great Constitution that I love.
All right, calm down.
The fairness.
Enough on the POTUS.
No, this is across the board. I should be notified of my charges.
I agree. Also remember from last week, Amendment 5 promises due process to anybody that's in America right now. No matter how they got here, they are given the constitutional right of due process. Legally or illegally, they are warranted by our amendment, our Constitution, the right of due process. So Amendment 6 now addresses how that process looks, how we should be going through that process. Again, as a Christian, I need to be completely objective. I've got to refrain or withhold judgment or withhold my own criticism to go through the whole process to making sure that everything is working out and I'm giving everything its proper chance to be delivered, examined, looked at, scrutinized, cross-examined, so that way what has been fair exists, right?
Right.
So the next one is the confrontation clause, and that is basically you being told of your accusers and having them accuse you face to face. That means they have to stand in trial.
You get to cross-examine.
Yes, and that your lawyer cross-examines them. And
that's good, because now you don't have it's probably framed from government just trying to enforce and impose their will to say, you did this, and now you don't get to say, like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Maybe this person got bribed. Now we just sit them on the stand.
Well, you could still do that even with this due process. It's still the potentiality is there.
But at least if it's public.
Yes.
Now, like in this,
and that's why they said it was in public, because this comes from common law Europe, and that's where problems were developing from this process. So the framers, who were from Europe, right, started to analyze and start looking at it more clearly, and started to again pick up the pieces that were good and fine tune it to see how that didn't. It was the system. It's trying to be fair. It's trying to do the right thing, but these gaps, these loopholes, are now prevented from executing the best way it could for the good of the society or the citizens it's supposed to be upholding, right?
Right.
So that's why they started to do this in public, fairly, and accusations, and you can confront them and then cross-examine them and so on. And then also the compulsory process clause, which is I have the right to subpoena witnesses and make them go to court on your behalf. Let's just say a coworker knows what I'm saying is truthful. I could subpoena that person to have to stand on trial for me, or stand in the trial for me as a witness on my behalf to say he didn't do it, or he never did that, or he wasn't there, or he was there, and so on, right?
And perjury is a real thing that'll make somebody try to tell the truth. You always got to give people some kind of consequence, man. You got to.
Well, they say that. Yeah. They say the only way law works is by when you show retribution also, or what did you just say?
I said
Consequences. Yeah, that's what it was. Consequences. So that's how law can be maintained, and
that your statement can be used against you for perjury down the road. You're going to try to like tell the truth. Like,
well, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The law, like having those laws and showing the consequences of breaking those laws, help those laws be sustainable.
Yes, to be fair and uphold
and consistent. Right. Okay.
Agreed.
All right. So now, what's good about this is that the Bible speaks heavily, a lot. It gives a lot of information and directive regarding court proceedings.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's not written like, we the people, but there are things that are important to help the Christian build some development, some characteristic of a Christian mind on how they're viewing what's happening in modern day society.
Gotcha.
In order for us to pick up the important pieces of what we should be doing and maintain the standards that the Bible is trying to transfer into us by renewing our minds to think clearly and to think honestly and to think justly. Sound right?
Sounds all right. You still got your question?
I do.
Okay. Man. Making sure you're good.
All right, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, y'all. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. Let's go to the book.
My word is hidden in my heart.
What? Okay, then repeat for me. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18. Yeah, it's so hidden, it ain't even there anymore.
It's
yeah.
Paulie, what's up? Thank you for liking that. If you're watching this right now, man, make sure you like this video right now, man. Get the numbers up. Like the video wherever you're at. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Like the video, man, so it'll reach more people. Like the video. Let's go.
The video. Let's go. All right, we're going to go into the book of Deuteronomy. And as I said, again, realizing that the Bible speaks heavily about due process, though it may not use the word due process.
Right.
It's going to address what's fair and honest in a court setting. It's going to have these kind of, examples for us to learn from. And then again, given our guidance, give our minds the ability to guide and know how to operate in our current, society, and to maintain a biblical reference or maintain a biblical standard that helps us to demonstrate good citizenship.
Agreed.
As well as being a godly woman or man.
Which is more important. Yes.
Deuteronomy chapter 16, starting at verse 18. Listen to what it says. Yeah, you don't know.
Let me see.
It says, judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, throughout thy tribes. And they shall judge the people with just judgment. Thou shalt not wrest or twist judgment. Thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift. For a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise, and perverts the words of the righteous. That which is altogether just shalt thou follow, and now that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. So here we see a picture of God instituting a justice system, a process. Keep in mind, he says you're going to make judges and officers. And the purpose of that is so that they can, what they're going to do is they're going to establish and they're going to judge the people. That means if they're judging the people have to bring them their accusations. And when the people bring those accusations, the judges and the leaders have to listen. And within that process, hopefully the outcome will be what is just and fair. You get it?
Yes.
So God even sees the importance of a system that is without arbitrariness and a system without corruption, where there doesn't leave room. Well, it doesn't offer people to just be misused and abused and taken advantage of.
And if that's happening, you're able to identify it because you have the standard of how you should do things and uphold things. You should be able to say, no, this is wrong. Mm-hmm. This is, so which is important as well, too.
And it also shows you that if they were going to judge justly, that means there's a standard that they are required to maintain. Right. They're judging the accusation off of a standard, right, not their own personal perception, but but a standard that has been transferred down to them. We understand that to be under these conditions. It was the law of Moses. It was the things of God. Now, if you remember, didn't we get into Moses last week? Did we deal with Moses? I don't think we did.
No, you said you had some verses.
That was it. That was it about Moses. So
I told you.
It's okay. So last week, we should have gotten into this, but that's okay. Real quickly, though, Moses was trying to judge all Israel, all 660,000 people. From sun up to sundown, he was hearing them bring their problems to Moses that they were having with each other. Imagine over 660,000 plus the mixed multitude, the Bible says, which were not counted because they were not Israelites. They were the people that came. They were Egyptians and other nations that came out with Israel out of Egypt. So the mixed multitude is unnumbered. But the number that were Israelites were over 660,000. So it could have been over 1 million people that he was trying to deal with single-handedly. Jethro, his father-in-law, was like, "This is insane. You'll exhaust yourself. You can't do it." So
thank God for wise men trying to help other people. Sometimes they think they can do it in their own strength. Go ahead, keep going.
Sometimes Moses has to just keep going because he can't get anybody because they're so stubborn and hard they don't want to do nothing. So he had to just do it himself. But anyways, let's move on. Yeah. Always wanting to trigger my guy in the chamber.
Thank God he surrendered. No, just thank God he surrendered.
Yeah, but I'm going into the promised land because I am not being left out of the promised land for a bunch of knuckleheads. That is not what's going down. Anyways, Jethro told him, set up where you have others who can do the mitigating, who are going to deal with the minor problems and mitigate the minor problems, and only the major problems that it bump up. It's like I was going to say, either you got the circuit courts, then you bump it up to the Supreme Courts, right? Or the state level, up
like
to the
district, to the circuit, to the appellate, like the ones who are going to appeal. Then Supreme,
So what basically he was doing was Jethro, and then later also it references how God told Moses, "Listen, I'm going to give you 70 elders. I'm going to put your spirit into them so that they can judge with you." So again, there is a process here. God wants people to be heard. I want you to understand that. Please hear what I'm saying. As a Christian, you have to have the temperance, the self-control to remind yourself that if God set up a system like this, that means he wants people to be able to be heard so that justice can be established. You with me? So that grievances can be dissolved. I can't dissolve a grievance if the person that has the grievance is not heard. Now, you can have unjust judges who refuse to listen to what is being said. We see that over in Luke 18. The Bible says this: men ought always to pray and not to faint. That's how the parable says. The purpose of this parable is that men ought always to pray and not to faint. Then he uses the widow who was done dirty, and she went to the unjust judge, and she continually goes. She's sending her grievance. She's speaking. She wants to be heard, and the unjust judge would not do anything for her for days. Finally, he says, because of her importunity, meaning because she constantly is coming to me and speaking to me and sharing her grievance with me, not because I fear God, not because I fear or are concerned about man, but because of her importunity, she refused not to be heard. Right?
Right.
So understand, when God in the Old Testament was setting up Israel, he was setting up Israel to show them that people need to be heard. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, no matter what part of the party you are of, you ought to have a heart that commits to the purpose of the framers, which says we need to let people be heard. Period. Whether they're they're accused of a crime, or somebody that's just defending themselves. People need to be heard. If you're not willing to do that, you should. If a Christian is in politics and refuses that, they should not even be in politics. That's one of the foundational aspects of God's justice, is to let somebody be heard. It doesn't mean you agree with them.
Correct.
Just let them be heard, because the grievance has to be established so that they can understand what they got to work through, right?
Right.
So that way the end result will be people will see how justice looks and how the process of getting justice works.
That's why it's good. Can't say good. Sometimes the Supreme Court misses a huge opportunity because they write their dissertations, they write what they publicly maybe dissent about. Like they get to put their public comments in there. I like when they put their public comments so that you can see what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because it allows now people to say, okay, let me see if I'm processing this correctly. Let's see how the Supreme Court is saying the framework should work. Let's see how they should. When you go back to, and I'm only using this point to say, just like how you talked about how it's not about us getting a trial. It's not about you getting representation. It's about you getting competent representation. It's about you getting a fair trial. It's not about just being heard. It's about the fact you're really listening so that you can provide the right explanation, which can allow for justice. The ball gets dropped sometimes in these political camps because you're not either A, providing the explanation, or B, it's not being expressed properly to where people can feel like, no, this was actually like justice. The heard piece is that, like you said, you got 70 elders. I'm going to listen to this and provide you with an explanation. You may not agree with the explanation, but a person can pay attention to whether you cared about their situation or not versus whether you just said, well, I heard it, and the answer is just no. Like there's a way in which you go about it. And I think just hearing you like bring that piece up it is important that when you say people deserve to be heard,
they deserve
the heard isn't just you standing at the counter.
No, right. Quantify that, because it's not about hearing their audible argument. It's about the reason for them being there in the first place.
Correct.
Why are they there expressing their grievance in the first place is what needs to be heard.
Correct. And to address the point that they can see, okay, I may not agree, but I see that you did address my issue. I thought this way and I still think this way, but you address the issue. Mm-hmm. Like that's what people want. They want that fairness to say like, okay.
Now, let me say this too. Who knows who's going to hear this or not? But while we break this down, I want you to also understand that you, as a professional, you should still take these concepts and make them applicable to your professional life, your professional daily interactions at your job. Because one of the most effective pieces in making sure you're communicating effectively, it's called the her. I think it's her or something like that. I forget how to say the name, but it's an acronym for how effective communication works. The H stands for hearing. Notice how that's the first thing about effective communication, hearing. Then understanding what you heard, HURRIER or something like that is you know what I'm saying, the acronym, but the name of it. So to what we're saying is not just about, as a Christian, making sure that I understand the importance of Amendment 6 of giving a criminal, the opportunity of a fair trial, but it's also for them to be heard. They're not guilty yet. They're accused, but they are not guilty. The important thing about this amendment is to give opportunity for somebody who is innocent but must be proven guilty by the accusers or the courts, now the prosecutors, right? And so this is so important. It is not about just giving somebody a chance to blow off steam and once they're done, you're like, okay, and now you move on with your presuppositions or your preconceived ideas of how you want this thing to go your way. That's not giving that person a chance to be heard. So also, when it comes to you at your job, you should be doing the same thing, especially if you're a leader. If you're a leader and you don't spend time listening to people, either if it's your coworkers, if it's your colleagues, or those that report up to you, if you're not willing to take time to hear them, and I mean hear them, their grievances about what's happening at the workplace or what you might be doing that's interfering with their ability to perform better when you want them to perform better, but you're not paying attention to them, what they're saying, that you're sometimes the reason why they can't perform the way they perform, because of the way you act towards them or the way you carry yourself or behave around them or do things that interfere with their thinking, and it demoralizes them or it doesn't give them inspiration, so on and so forth. Anyways, back to the original premise. Thinking about the Amendment 6 and understanding the having a fair trial, being heard, we're showing you scripturally how God set that up, because the most important thing is he wants people to be heard. Let's go into chapter 17 of Deuteronomy, starting at verse 8. Again, listen to the language of what the scriptures say. If there arise a matter too hard for thee in judgment, between blood and blood, between plea and plea, and between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy within thy gates, then shalt thou arise and get thee up into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt come unto the priests, the Levites, and unto the judges that shall be in those days, and inquire. And they shall show thee the sentence of judgment. And thou shalt do according to the sentence which they of that place which the Lord shall choose shall show thee. And thou shalt observe to do according all that they inform thee. This is, again, God establishing. Listen to the language, though. Listen to what he says. He says, when there is a judgment or a matter too hard for thee in judgment. So there's a matter between blood and blood, or between plea and plea, meaning it sounds like contractually. Plea and plea sounds contractually. You know what I'm saying? Like you promised and I promised, but there's some deficiency or there's something arbitrary going on, right? Mm-hmm. So plea to plea sounds like contractually. Okay, I promise to give you a goat if you give me a lamb, and I give you a dead lamb and whatever. Anyways, between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy within thy gates. So he says, if that can't be met at that level, go to the next level. But again, pay attention. It's a process for them to be what?
Heard. And
to be heard.
For justice. Ultimately for justice to take place.
Exactly. Again, for them to be heard. We're going to keep stressing this. I'm going to keep stressing this anyways. Again, as a Christian, if I want to be somebody who is going to be politically savvy, it's not about doing verbal jumping jacks, linguistic jumping jacks to make my story sound pretty. It's internally understanding what the framers were doing, and you honestly trying to help mankind by maintaining that discipline to let the process be used correctly so that people can be heard. Now, there's a special verse I'm about to read in Deuteronomy 19. So let's go to Deuteronomy 19. Are we all good out there? Any questions? Any comments?
We good. We got some likes. Keep the likes coming in. Okay.
Deuteronomy chapter 19, verses 15 through 20. Listen to this. One witness shall not rise up against a man for an iniquity, or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of two or at the mouth of three witnesses shall the matter be established. If a false witness rises up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord, before the priests and the judges which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition. And behold, if the witness be a false witness and has testified falsely against his brother, then thou shalt do unto him as he has thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you. Watch this, verse 20. And those which remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you. And thine eye shall not pity, but life shall go for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Now, pay attention to the progressiveness of this, right? First of all, he says, number one person can't accuse another person of a crime. It says, out of the mouth of two or three witnesses, let that accusation become established. But it doesn't stop there, right? It doesn't stop there. It goes on to say, now you're going to bring this to the priests, who are the judges, and they're going to make what? Diligent inquisition.
To see if there was false witness.
Exactly. They're going to search diligently. That's inquisition. They're going to search diligently. They're going to work through.
It's making sure there's a fair trial. It's making sure you're getting the right representation.
You're not allowing one person to be able to point the finger, and that's all that they're going by.
You get to cross-examine. You get to get some representation.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see what the Bible's doing here? But this is what I'm saying. It's like, if you're going to be an honest Christian, and if you're going to try to uphold the amendments, you have to uphold it in its entirety. You have to be thorough in its entirety. You have to be willing to spend the time. This is spending time.
Agreed.
Then it goes on to say, whatever. So that we don't do this now. We don't have that law or that amendment placed in this. But I want to address everybody who loves to use the phrase. Basically, it's being a vigilante. But they say an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth, life for life. That is, if you hear somebody speaking that on their own accord, they have no understanding of what that verse is saying. That eye for eye and tooth for tooth was under the jurisdiction of the judges to commence judgment on those who had falsely accused or did the wrong and falsely did the wrong against somebody, and now they have to repay based on what they were trying to have something done to somebody else.
Gotcha.
Or it was also used in another court or another instance where if my bull got loose and went to Jack's yard and killed one of his lambs, right? Mm-hmm. The law tells me, number one, I can do one or two things. He gets the bull, I sell the bull, give him the money. You with me? Mm-hmm. That's eye for eye, tooth for tooth. It's just retribution, but it has nothing to do with somebody walking down the street, right? Punches me in the eye, right? And then I go home and I get 2 or 3 people and we beat that person up, and that's eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. Because he did it to me, I'm going to take it out on him. And I'm going to justify myself by saying that I get to do that because that's the law. Or, that's eye for an eye and tooth for tooth. That's not what God is saying there. That is not at all what God was saying there. But that wasn't the way it was established. If you want retribution, go through the courts. And again, we're not here to talk about how bad we know the court system is. We know this. We're not talking about that. We're here to talk about how can I uphold the integrity as a Christian, these amendments, right? Right. That's what we want to try and get a hold of. That's what we're trying to establish here. So that was Deuteronomy chapter 16, 17, and 19. Any questions so far?
No. Have you forgot your question?
No.
Okay.
Any questions out there, y'all? This is good. This is good. I'm hoping that you're enjoying this. I know it's not quote unquote like Bible study or Christianity, but it is because it's godly. It's holy. It's being just. It's understanding how do I perceive my behaviors and my actions as a Christian when it comes to politics, or when it comes to if I want to be a politician, or how should I look at society? Because again, so many people pick up the story midway through the story and go with it instead of going to the origin of the story, going to what the framers were working with, what the framers' intentions were with the law. They couldn't see everything. I know for a fact they could not have seen today's society. I know that for a fact. They would have definitely carved in some hardcore tenets. But I'm just saying. But to be able to have the right mindset approaching things, working through things, not allowing your emotional reflexes stimulate your thought process to accuse or to automatically set up a storyline in your head that could be completely wrong, but that's the narrative you want to believe because you refuse to work through the evidence, you refuse to work through the process to come to a logical conclusion of what is right and wrong. And this is what God's intentions are all the time as he's building us up as believers. In the book of Proverbs, and then we're going to go to the question.
Even in church, man, you need to make sure we see same nice judicial, like making sure those
Well,
witnesses
there's a.
I mean, there is in the gospel it talks about bringing matters up and
It's in the Gospels, yep.
But we just want to make sure that the witnesses still are tied back to those things, fair, accurate. You know, those same type of matters as well too. Still kind of ties in as well. Go ahead. You're going to
no, totally not. I mean, when Jesus brings it up, he uses the same verse that we read in Deuteronomy 16, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. It is not a declared decree. It is not something that you got to hear about. Somebody hearing, like you have a dream and you share this dream with somebody and they confirm it by saying, you know what, I agree there. I think God is definitely telling me the same thing. And then you go to somebody else, you tell them the same dream, and they agree with, like, I have the same. Oh, that's God. That's 2 or 3 witnesses. That's confirmation that this dream is of God. No. You ate way too much pepperoni pizza last night, and that grease got into your system, and you couldn't sleep well, and you were in subconsciousness, and you were daydreaming about some other craziness, and you come up with this dream, and now it's God leading you, and you make this big old grand orchestrated testimony in church about what God's doing in your life. Come on now. You can't even quote John 3:16. All right, I'm sorry. I digress. Proverbs chapter 1. Listen to what it says here. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction. Listen, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instructions of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity, which is fairness. That means then the intentions of the word of God and the book of Proverbs, the book of wisdom, was to bring you to a conclusion mentally in your mental bandwidth of identifying what's wisdom, what is just, what is fair, and judgment is righteousness. Being able to perceive those things and then make them applicable to your day-to-day life and all of the assessments that you make in life. It's how you make assessments in life, how you perceive things and hear things and see things, what you're making how you're making decisions off of what's happening. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
You got nothing to say?
Not so far. I mean, I've been talking.
Man, your energy's whack, yo.
I've been talking. I've been commenting.
All right. So let's conclude with this. So hopefully you guys are all good with what we talked about a little bit with the Sixth Amendment, understanding the application of it, but more importantly, as a Christian, how I should be functioning and appreciating and upholding the Sixth Amendment. And if I was a politician, how would I manage myself about my the citizens in my county or in my district, in my jurisdiction, ensuring them that I'm going to uphold actually that Sixth Amendment. So if I hear about the injustices of due process not being followed, am I going to stand up for that stuff, right? Or, like so often, politicians might have themselves being lined in their pockets with people's contributions, and those contributions, like the Bible says over in Deuteronomy, do not take gifts. Now, I'm not saying you can't get sponsors to help, because raising funds and campaigns is important, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're allowing that to spoil your decision-making process, if you're allowing that to interfere with good judgment and what's righteous, when it spoils your ability to recognize and to perceive what justice needs to be, how justice needs to be handled and conveyed and developed, then you don't need to be in office. You should not be there. My question.
Let's get it.
My question. I hear people say that you can't legislate morality. Is that true or false?
You can't legislate morality.
You can't legislate morality.
I would say that it's happening. It's happening anytime any bills get passed. There's some form of morality, at least in a piece of the bill.
So my follow-up question would be then, does morals and ethics, we're going to use those interchangeably, even though there is a distinction between the two, okay? But we'll use them interchangeably just for the sake of the conversation. Do morals or ethics affect human behavior?
Yes.
Okay.
We have our code of conduct. We have our standard of how we believe things to be right or wrong. Therefore, we act on those things.
And even if somebody's ethics is different than another person, let's just say a different culture, different, whatever it is that they believe, whatever the systems or rules or moralities that they have established, right? Does it affect their behaviors? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So then I would have to disagree. So my logic would be then the what is that called? What is that called?
What are you? I don't know what you're trying to go to. The question was:
if A and if B, then C.
Logically valid argument.
Okay.
So premise.
That's what I wanted. Shh, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Let's go.
If my premise is then that if they're saying if morals affect behavior, right, and we have morals, right, then if morals affect behavior and legislation is established by morals, right, then we would say that you can legislate morals, right, morality.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not trying to pigeonhole anything. I'm just for a conversation for right now.
And people typically utilize it when they're trying to weed out.
I was going to say debunk, or they try to debunk anything.
Yeah, try to debunk like religious things. The problem is that just you're still like from a moral standpoint, you're still throwing out a specific code. Period. No matter what the bills are. If the bill is we don't want abortions, if the bill is
no matter what it is,
we feel like we should have it. No matter what it is, if it's like we need to give tax breaks to the wealthy. No, we shouldn't. That's still more. There's still a code of conduct that says why you feel as though it's not morally right to give.
What drives it, right?
It's so to say that we should be legislating morality. We should be having our views. Though. It is.
You're doing it.
It's woven in there. You just don't want somebody to say that they're a Christian in doing it, or I'm a Muslim in doing it, or but morality. That's how laws are like. That is what's guiding them.
I think what they're trying. Here's what I realized also as you were talking. I also think I think some of it has to do with not establishing a religion, because again, under the amendment, the government cannot establish a religion. So therefore, if a moral code has its sentencing or its threads of logic attached to a religious book, somebody might say, "Oh, you can't, legislate morality. You can't because you're trying to establish that religion." Well, no, we're just saying morality is morality.
But let's follow that logic. Then, based upon what you're saying, is then only a person who's an atheist or only a person who is agnostic
would be able to establish
that. And then by that, you've now just limited the First Amendment to only these people as far as legislation goes. So only then these people should be running in government,
right?
Because
you're afraid you're establishing government or you're establishing religion because somebody decides, hey, I want to stop abortion, whatever. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not telling you what my political affiliation is on that stance. I'm just saying, if I were to say I want to stop abortion, somebody may say, well, you can't legislate morality because you're a Christian and you're trying to establish religion within the government. And it's like, no matter what people establish as right and wrong, that's morality. Therefore, it's being legislated.
Agreed. And I think that's key for somebody to understand about being heard. If there is a person who's feeling like this is morally wrong and I can't allow that, it's still your job to hear.
To let them say
the matter. Yeah. It's still your job because maybe there's something maybe you can still be correct in your conclusion, but there's still some things that you need to work on in implementation that by hearing the matter, it can allow you to better perceive things. So, it's just for any person to understand that hearing a matter, there could be some nuggets in there, even if your conclusion doesn't change. That's worthwhile. So, I agree. I like it.
All right, this is pretty good, man. I think we're gonna close up here.
Well, that's good. Listen, we didn't get any questions. But we did get some comments. So, and we got some likes. So I want you to go over wherever platform you're on. Go over to the Righteous Unity YouTube channel. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share the video, and interact with us. We love it when we're getting some pushback or getting comments. It allows for the dialogue to go smoother. But we're going to continue on in this series. But at any time, if you have any other topics that you want us to talk about and address, please let us know. Hit us up on these platforms, and we'll address your topic coming up shortly in one of these Real Talk discussions. So we'll see you next week.
Hold on, let me just say this too. I just want to finish up by saying, as I want to try and start finishing out, is that, you know, the purpose behind what Jack and I are doing is, you know, we're trying to elevate, you know, a conversation about Christianity and put it in modern day, you know, backdrop, but maintaining scriptural integrity, maintaining biblical integrity. But more importantly, at the end of the day, once we have these dialogues, and hopefully the discussions will grow and develop, hopefully our hope is that we can keep this going, and it opens up more conversations. It opens up more people's dialogues to want to speak about biblical things and speak on the relevance of biblical things. And if it's relevant, or if it isn't relevant, or you don't like it, or whatever it may be, to build it up. But at the end of the day, we're always trying to build a path. We're trying to build a path for people to come to know Jesus Christ personally. Our goal is to always honor the name of Jesus Christ. Our goal is to help people have a pathway that's unhinged or not filled with complications that have been building up in their life because of the bad experiences they've had. Whether they've had a bad experience at home, they've had a bad experience with family, they had a bad experience with society, or people in their job who were representing Christianity or representing religion, and it just turned them off. We want to create a dialogue, which is a pathway to open up discussions and having more conversations that hopefully people will want to have their own personal journey with Jesus Christ, and understanding that only through his death, burial, and resurrection can men be saved. And we don't say that to condemn. That's the message of Jesus never condemns. The message of Jesus explicitly expresses the purpose of him coming was to save. The Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. So the message of Jesus Christ is never condemning. If people abuse it and misuse it, that's not on the origin of the original message. So, and our desire is to open up those discussions that somebody can understand that and work on a journey to the Lord for themselves, and then have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. So until next time, we definitely appreciate everybody that was watching, and we hope you have a fantastic July 4th weekend, and be safe.
Be safe.
And God bless you all.
Amen.